Good morning. Today, I want to talk about our Sunday morning schedule. Now, I know that is super exciting to some of you, about as exciting as watching paint dry, because right now, Sunday morning schedule is working well for you. But for others, it's not working so well. Others have had to sacrifice their preferences during this season of pandemic, and for them, it is deeply important. And I would argue that it is deeply important for all of us as a church family, individually and collectively. It's important because we are resetting. We are in the process in Sunday mornings of talking about pivoting into the new reality, and that includes for us as a church. And as we pivot from what our experience has been over this last year and a half, we want to get it right. We want to do the best that we can to reach most people to share the light of Christ. Second, it's important because we have not solved. This has been a challenge for our church for over 10 years. For over 10 years, and several pastors, a number of leaders, we, for one reason or another, have really struggled with our Sunday morning schedule. We'll talk about that in a minute. And third, I want to really acknowledge those who've been hurt right now by the Sunday morning schedule. We have not been in a season of great clarity. Some of it's our own fault, some of it's my fault, some of it really is the pandemic and the disconnection that we're experiencing during this pandemic time. I still have folks coming up to me and saying, weren't you going away this summer, or did you get back from your sabbatical or from your suspension or whatever it was, and who's that pastor over there? Information's out, but we're all full. Life is full right now, and we can only take in so much. And so there is a gap. I'll just say there's a gap, and that has been hurtful. And I want to acknowledge that. We don't want folks to be hurt. We clearly don't. And we don't want people to feel like they're not important. And so I want to take just a few minutes to share a couple of thoughts about the upcoming conversation about what our Sunday morning schedule will look like in the months ahead. And the first is to remember that our current Sunday morning schedule of the 9 o'clock contemporary service, the 11 o'clock traditional service, with an hour in between for Sunday school, was really instigated by the arrival of the pandemic. You recall back when the pandemic kind of kicked in, we had to pivot very quickly in a matter of days, go from we're meeting in person 3 times on Sunday morning to now we're not meeting in person at all. And we have to do this on video. And we're not equipped to do it on video. We've not been doing it on video. We're not sure how to do this on video. And we have to consider how we take care of the people that are doing the videos. How do we ensure their safety? How do we make the best use of resources? Doing online worship is far more expensive than most people realize. And so how does that all factor into that? And so decisions were made very quickly, had to be, about how we suddenly offer worship. We knew that we could not, for safety and resources, offer every worship service that we wanted. And so we really made a decision to offer both kinds of worship that we're currently doing. We could have just offered one. That would have been easier, but we decided to take that stand and offer 2 different styles so that people could continue in a style of their choice. That's a decision that continued to roll out as the pandemic continued on. Like, we kind of expected this would be a few months, right? And here we are all this time later, and we're still in the pandemic. And as time progressed, we had to start talking about how we brought people back on campus. And again, safety was one of the primary concerns. We couldn't, because of safety, just rush from one room to another. Because of equipment, we couldn't go from one room to another. Because of people, couldn't go from one, because we had to clean between people, because we had to register people. We couldn't just offer everything we did before. It wasn't safe, and it wasn't optimal, and it wasn't good use of resources. So we made decisions along the way, and we had lots of conversation. The Lord, did we have conversation? Conversation. I mean, ad nauseum about all of this, about how we go about continuing to reopen in person with our worship services and our Sunday school. Second, I'd remind you that the pandemic is still here, right? We want to be done. I am tired. I don't know about you. I am tired of this pandemic and what's happened. I long for what was, And I have this peace in my heart that feels that some things will not go back to the way they were. Church does not look like it looked like when I was a kid. Church does not look like it looked like 6 years ago, and it won't for a while. I know that God is going to use a church and will rebuild the church and have it thrive, but it's going to take some time. And so the pandemic is still here. We have families that have started coming back and then have stopped again with the resurgence. And so our conversation right now and the decisions being made about our Sunday morning schedule, I can't say this enough, has been about how to reopen the physical presence. That's really been the guiding force and the conversation we're still in. We have not yet moved to what our final schedule will be. It's been about how do we continue to bring more people back. We have yet to talk about fully what the schedule will be. You'll remember that when the pandemic hit, I'd been here 3 or 4 years, and there was a time about 1.5 years into my tenure here, we wanted to change the service times. And so what did we do? Well, I went to the leadership and asked for their approval. I talked about it in worship. I put together videos. I held town hall meetings after the services to talk about why we wanted to do this. There was lots of conversation. Because of the pandemic, we've not had that opportunity yet. We will be, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we're in process. So what I would say is, please understand, we're in process, and that's part of what we're working with. The third is that this is not a David decision. This is not a staff decision. This is a shared decision. In our church, we have a representational model of government. That is, we elect leaders to make decisions for us on a daily basis. I don't think anybody has the time to be in every decision here. We don't have a congregational model, which is where everybody votes on everything. That's not how our church is organized, United Methodist Church. And so we have leaders, and we truly share that leadership decisions. There was a time that didn't happen in this place. There's a time when the staff made all the decisions and the lay teams kind of just were there to support the staff. That is not the case. And so now we have lots of conversation and decide things together. That frustrates some people because they feel it's way too slow and they have to talk to too many people. I hear that. On the flip side, it gives people a chance to talk and have voice in what's happening with their family. That's our process. We are truly seeking to share this decision. And so I just want you to know that we will be talking about it. In fact, I invite you right now to our September 15th Zoom meeting with myself and Ben Howell, the chair of our leadership council. There's a makeup meeting for that on the 23rd. It's not a different meeting, but for those that can't make the 15th. You recall we already had a Zoom meeting about worship and have a chance for feedback on that back at the beginning of the year. We're also going to send out a survey monkey to all of our congregations so people can share their preferences. And of course, you are free always to contact the pastors or our lay leaders about your opinions, so you can share what you feel the church is called to do. A couple of things to think about, I ask. One is that we are really striving to grow intergenerationally. We as a church value intergenerational ministry. It's one of our core values, along with worship and missions, intergenerational ministry, which means we set aside resources and we set aside effort to help bring along those children and youth that may not have voice in this for the sake of their walk with Christ and their future in God. In the past, our Sunday morning schedule really challenged this core value because I had to make a choice. I either had to go to, if I wanted to go to contemporary service, I either had to go to worship or to Sunday school. And Sunday school is critical because, or call it small groups, wherever you want to call it hour, where I'm in a smaller connection. As a pastor, I've seen over the years that a pastor plays an important role in people coming back after they visit. They don't like the pastor, they don't like the sermon, whatever, they won't come back. But no matter how much they like the pastor, if after a time they don't connect to other people in the church, they won't stay, because just coming on Sunday morning for an hour is not enough for us to grow into the likeness of Christ. We have to do that in community and in relationships. And so we have to find a way for people to get connected to community and in relationship, a relationship context where they can grow into that likeness of Christ. And that's really been a rub, because in the past, I had to choose whether my children will be in worship with me in contemporary service or will be in Sunday school. And I couldn't do both. We were not offering people the opportunity to participate in all that they wanted when they wanted already. That was one of the challenges. And again, this has stymied us for a long, long time. And that's partly because this requires adaptive change. Adaptive change is change that we don't have an easy answer for. It's change that requires a new learning, a new approach, something that we have to become new and different to achieve, as opposed to technical change, which is simply rearranging the pieces or coming up with a new formula of pieces we already know. We've been trying to address our Sunday morning schedule and optimizing the ways for people to connect both in worship and in community of all ages by technical changes, changing the service time or changing the order or changing how it's held and that forth. But what we really need is adaptive change, a whole new way of thinking and approaching. That's what's up in front of us. And so I just ask you to think about two things, two questions that I'm asking myself, and I invite you to think about and ask as we move into this conversation. First, with limited resources, and we have limited resources. We have limited resources in terms of building, time, volunteers, staff, finances. Limited resources mean we can't offer all the services we want to all the people. How do I choose the priority? How do we choose the priority of which services to offer? What's our criteria? How do we help those that perhaps don't have a voice at the table to participate in that? And second, which is more important to me? My preference of the time I want to go to worship, or the mission and vision of the church family? And those are critical questions that we have to wrestle with. They're not easy ones. But I wouldn't want to do it with any other group than our church family. I know that our church family will work through this and we will move forward. I know the church will be given grace and strength and growth through Jesus Christ. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. God bless.